everybody. Welcome to Women in Retail Talks, the podcast where C-suite executive women in the retail space share their stories of professional growth, leadership development, personal journeys, and more. I'm Melissa Campanelli, the co-founder of Women in Retail Leadership Circle, which is a membership-based community of executive women at leading retailers and brands. I'm so excited that today joining me is Jackie Ardrey, the president and CEO and director of Vera Bradley, and she's also a Women in Retail Leadership Circle member. Jackie joined Vera Bradley back in November 2022, and today we're going to talk about Vera Bradley's Project Restoration rebranding program, which Jackie spearheaded and which was designed to reinvigorate the business and restore the brand. Welcome, Jackie.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I've been looking so forward to chatting with you about this. So I'm so excited you're joining us today, taking some time away because I know how busy you are. Well, I'm just going to jump right in. So tell us a little bit about Project Restoration. How did you come up with it? I understand it's a transformation plan, but what steps did you take to implement it?
So we have been laying the groundwork for this Project Restoration for, almost since I started. So, about almost 2 years. Really, when I came in, my job here, the reason I was hired was to kind of take the brand and look at how it's been declining for several years, and conduct a pretty comprehensive analysis of the business, looking at sales data, customer demographics, competitors, as well as kind of layering in some macroeconomic challenges, industry trends. And it really led us to make this conscious decision to repivot and refresh the brand to ensure long-term growth. So for us, that means at Vera Bradley, we have a pretty sizable outlet business, and then we also have a full line business. We have a wholesale business. We have Amazon business. So really looking at all of those channels and deciding what the right branding was, first of all, and who we wanted to talk to in the future. We're very fortunate that we have a multi-generational customer that we absolutely want to keep. But really looking at what products and discount structures and all of that belong in each channel, and how do we make that make sense to the customer and actually just improve the top and bottom line health of the business. So it was an intentional shift in many ways that really is designed to take this storied 40-year-old brand, beloved 40-year-old brand, and set it up to thrive for the next 100 years. So that was it's really a full brand transformation. So every piece of our business has been updated and elevated from beginning to end across all channels. We've unveiled an entirely new product line with new fabrications and styles, new in-store and online experience, an exciting celebrity partner, Zooey Deschanel. And then we've also done an overhaul internally, making improvements to our supply chain, rewriting our brand pillars, onboarding a new leadership team. It really, fundamentally, we realized that we needed to evolve alongside our customer to better serve her as she journeys through the stages of her life. So really elevating, modernizing our materials, our products, our branding, and offering customer solutions that are going to fit their unique sense of style and become a vehicle for their own self-expression.
Yeah, I've been following it on social media. It seems so great. I love it so much. I definitely want to get into some of the changes that you implemented around the brand, et cetera. But we here at Women in Retail love to talk about leadership and strategies around dealing with transformations and et cetera. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit here. How did you initially communicate the vision for the retail transformation to your team? And maybe you can talk about how you were able to address any resistance or skepticism that you may have had, because whenever there's transformation, we all know there could be some, concern or fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, I think that's a topic we deal with as leaders all the time. And I was really encouraged just at the most recent Women in Retail Leadership conference, when hearing from Cy Wakeman about change and enabling organizations for change. I thought it was it's really stuck with me, and very appropriate for this work, right? That keeping your organization ready for change is one of the most important things. And this organization really did need to have to be brought along in terms of their readiness for change, and especially the nature and the expansiveness of this change. So there are a lot of things that we did, and a lot of things I think, bringing in a new leadership team, a lot of people who I knew, which was just happened to be very fortunate at the time. People were really attracted to the idea of transforming this beloved brand, and so that was a definite way that I could get some great people here. But we really stayed close to people and listened, and allowed people to talk about their concerns and kind of solve them together. But we really did need for people to commit to where we were going, because there was lots of reasons to not change, and but a whole bunch of other reasons that we really did need to change. So I kind of talked about it in the organization as we were going through it, at town halls and in individual meetings, as this continuum from terrified to exhilarated, and it all depended on where you were in the on the continuum. So if you had been working on the transformation for a while, like the front end, the designers and the merchants, they were initially terrified, and then the more they worked through it and the more they understood why we were doing it, and the output was becoming more real, they quickly moved along that continuum to exhilarated. But the more people who didn't have all the information kind of maybe hung out in the worry area, and maybe not terrified, but in the worry area for a little bit longer. So, our job as leaders was getting them from terrified to exhilarated, as quickly as we could. And I think, we were highly communicative, very clear in our direction that this is where we were going. And also that we were going to learn, and that there were going to be mistakes, and there were things that we couldn't, possibly know if they were going to work or not. But we used all the data that we had and made the best decision, and said, we're going to adjust as soon as we see results, as soon as we hear customer commentary, we're going to adjust. And so that's the phase that we're in right now. And I'm really excited to see, we have a couple weeks of learning, and there's things that we're adjusting, and the entire company is rallying around, okay, what do we learn? What do we do next? And that's really when you've got an organization that is strong and resilient and learning.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about so many great things there. I mean, it sounds to me like the key in terms of tools or motivating the team is communication, being clear, being transparent. It sounds like you did a lot of support, supported them, made them feel comfortable. So it sounds to me like leadership is such an important part of this action plan for those listening who are going through something like this. Leadership is so important. I mean, can you talk a little bit more maybe about how important leadership is in this kind of a situation, and maybe some of your leadership tips or strategies, maybe in a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So for me, the most important thing here was having a cross-functional team of leaders who were aligned and working towards the same goals. And that sounds so simple, but usually does a little bit harder, because when you're rowing all towards a new vision for the company, it's not sort of, there's word for word interpretation, right? I can talk about where we're going and why we have to go there, And everybody's going to have a little bit different vision of what that looks like. And some, may have a vision for product or creative or fulfillment or anything that is that's a little bit different. And all it takes is for some of those to be those dials in all your leadership team to be off a little bit, and then suddenly you're way far off from where you were going, right? So if everybody's off just a little bit, then you really can get far from the original vision. So it it was really important to have a group of cross-functional leaders who were driving towards the same goals, who were really, in fact, it's kind of funny. Because I said this so much, they started the executive team for Vera Bradley started to have, separate meetings and different task forces that they were doing on their own. And suddenly I started to get text photos from them every time they met somewhere else and they were all together solving a problem. And that's when I knew that it was working, because it was sort of a funny way to say, hey, like there is a problem that we have to solve. And I was handing it off to them to solve it. And then they were, sending me pictures about them, being in this room and and I just said, you've got to power it out, and you're not all going to agree, but you have to at the end come to a consensus. And again, that's not something that's revolutionary, but it is hard in practice. It's really hard in practice. And that's what we have, I think, as a leadership team, developed this muscle of being able to understand the vision and communicate what that vision means, and be able to kind of talk through it, come to a consensus, and be able to argue it out, debate it out, whatever, and walk out all aligned. And that is, I think, one of the most important things when you have any kind of company that's in a transformation, or even if your results are just okay and you want them to be great. That the consistency of leadership and vision, and ensuring that your leaders are walking out of the room with the same thoughts and then vision and clarity that you do, and they're communicating that to their teams, is absolutely essential for success.
That must have been so rewarding for you too, to get those texts and stuff, to see that your sort of vision was being put into action. And I also want to just mention the importance of cross-functional teams and making sure that everyone's on the same page. Every time we talk about transformation, that comes up as being so key. So that's just great all around.
And I think, Melissa, just further to that when you're not on the same page, what I love is that, someone will run down here and say, hey, I understood this, do you have 30 minutes? Can you come talk to the team for a minute? Because we're at a stopping point, and
Pass or
we're,
something, right?
there's we don't have clarity. So that's also when that if you're open enough, that you can provide that level of guidance and leadership when the team needs it, and on an ad hoc basis. That's not, for a transformation as complete as this, because we just launched New Day in our brand stores and our vb.com site. We also have, later in August, we'll do something similar for our whole outlet chain. So we have new stuff. So that is the next phase of this. It's not quite as comprehensive, where in the brand stores, every single style is new. Everything is completely new in those stores and online. At outlet, it's not, from a styling point of view, it's not as complete, but there's lots of changes coming in the outlet channel as well. So this whole organization has pretty much, in the last year and a half, has completely analyzed and changed the direction of the business. So it's phenomenal. I'm so proud of this team and what they've accomplished. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk, let's get into some of the specific strategic changes. So I'm assuming that there were some trends in consumer behavior that may have influenced the transformation, Vera Bradley transformation, like particularly among Gen Z and millennial shoppers. Is that true? And how did that sort of play into this?
Yeah, I mean, we're so fortunate when you look over time, and I think this is an important kind of like feel good story. Like we're everything we look at, all the data we look at, we try to understand the why behind it. And when Barb and Pat started this company 40 years ago, I mean, first of all, they were, these women entrepreneurs before anybody was even talking about women being entrepreneurs. They each, quote unquote, borrowed, $250 from their husbands and, bought some fabric and started making bags, right? Which is unbelievable to think about. That's how this whole thing started. But they we always try to track how do we have such a multi-generational customer, right? We've got the college age kid, we've got her mom, and we've got her mom's mom, right? So how did that happen? And it really, and again, we don't really have any data from the very beginning, but Barb and Pat at that time, they're where they were in their lives, they were kind of that age, and they were giving these bags to their moms and their daughters, and they were out in colleges. Their daughters and their friends were out in colleges and in their schools sharing these bags, and they were sharing them with their friends. And that's kind of what we think. I mean, obviously we don't know exactly, but it's a great story that that's probably what happened here, and that is exactly what we have. So when you look at how this woman, this 35 to 54-year-old, she is influencing, and she was influencing 40 years ago, the younger, her daughter and her mom, right? And so we look at the 35 to 54-year-old now, 40 years later, and think, wow, okay, how can we better serve her? And it's not like we just want to get 35 to 54-year-olds. That's not it. But if you look over time, that's where we have where we've not focused as much. So and you look at our customer file over time, that's really where it showed us that we needed to place some more emphasis. So we dug deep into what's her life like now. And we did a lot of market research, and she told us what bag she was using, what brand she was using, and why. And we just learned all these fascinating things about how women live today with their bags, and how there's this phenomenon of, you have a bag, but then you have another bag in the bag, and then you have other ways to organize within that bag. And it's not just you're going and you're buying a purse. Like, the purse stays in perhaps your tote bag, or if you have kids, you've got 2 or 3 bags in your car because you need the bags for different things. And so there was a lot of insight that we gained from that research that basically said, okay, like and then how do we focus on her so that she can continue to influence and allow us, our multi-generational customer base to flourish and grow. So that was really kind of foundational for us to to learn all of this, and really go back to the beginning and think, gosh, like, this is really how we think we have this multi-generational customer, because that's how they started it, and that's how it spread. And so over time we've kept that.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, if I had to sum it up, it's about focusing on this woman, because she has the ability to influence both. She's buying for her mom, she's buying for her daughter, she's buying for herself. I mean, we know that this age range is more, certainly more busy, more, she has more responsibilities than, she might have aging parents she's taking care of. She might, she definitely has kids in different age ranges that she's taking care of. So how can we help her better organize her life? That's and also look great doing it. I mean, that's the other, the other thing we really wanted to lean into.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the sort of range of customers, you had mentioned in one interview, I think, that you had studied Abercrombie's playbook, Abercrombie and Finch's playbook when putting together the turnaround. Can you talk about that a little bit? I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, so this is definitely, we studied just all kinds of turnaround playbooks, watching other successful rebrands such as Abercrombie, but also, looking at Coach, Banana Republic, and, kind of over time what those brands had to do to refresh themselves. So we knew we needed to refresh a lot of what we had, keeping parts of it. So it's what I'm most proud of is what we delivered a few weeks ago in our brand assortments. It's the highest compliment is when people say, wow, this looks modern and fresh, but it still looks like Vera Bradley, because we never set out to change the brand. That was not what we wanted to do at
Hmm.
all. We wanted to, we had gotten into a place where, quite frankly, we had a lot of discounting. We had an outlet channel. Obviously, there was a highly discounted channel, and we have a brand channel that was also highly discounted. And so, really looking at how do we separate those and let the outlet channel be a real outlet, and how do we let the brand channel be more truly a more, I wouldn't say completely full price, but just more full price leaning channel, and and offer her product that she's willing to pay full price for. That was really kind of the direction, and that really led us towards leather as a collection that we did test leather last fall. We were able to kind of rush that to market and get some things out there, and that was a full price collection that resonated really well with our customers. And then this new leather, which is amazing. It's so soft, and it's just the design is impeccable. Even though it's solid product, we still have print lining, so it's very quintessentially Vera Bradley. But I think Abercrombie really had, they did something similar in looking at, hey, how are we going to focus on a core customer range, and really understand them, and make product that is accessible and attractive to them. And they had to change a lot of things too, and so there's so many parallels that we looked at and said, okay, it's a good playbook to follow.
Hmm.
um, but the transformation really is just, it's focused on driving long-term profitable growth, and building on this foundation of strong business discipline, a highly engaged team, strong balance sheet, and a robust technology platform, which I think, again, those are the same things that Abercrombie was starting with, although obviously they're much bigger than our brand.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, just looking at the different playbooks. Um, just jumping ahead on some of the other initiatives. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some changes that you made to brick and mortar stores to better meet consumer expectations?
Yes, and that I love it, because I have spent, in the last 2 weeks since we've launched, I've spent a lot of time in the stores, and I have to say I'm almost happier when I'm in the stores right now than when I'm in my own house, because it's just the changes that we made in the stores, and the store associates, the store teams are so excited about them.
Yeah.
We needed to make some updates, and this was, again, I know part of Abercrombie's playbook as well. We hadn't tended to our stores, and so we needed to, first of all, make the stores easier to shop. So we took out a lot of product that was in the stores that was really not very productive. So we wanted to make it easier to shop. We kind of eliminated a lot of the clutter. So we have new fixtures on the floor that store product. So the store associates can actually take the time to talk to customers and not be running in the back to find other patterns or or other styles that were previously in the back room. So we have storage on the floor, new updated fixtures, paint, new paint, our new logos, and it's really the experience in the store now is so just fresh and bright and modern and inviting, and there's lots of ways to engage, and lots of obviously with a new line, we want to talk to new customers that are coming in and help them understand what's great about our products, but also help our existing customers map, what if they love this style, then this is their new style, and what are the features of that, because we do have a lot of our products have a lot of features and organization. So
Yeah.
so there's lots of that around the store, so people can read and understand if they're inclined that way. There's certainly there's lots of digital prompts around the store as well. So if you're more of a digital learner and you'd prefer to just scan on your phone and use the QR code to see a video of how it might fit, all of that is embedded in our store signage, and so it truly is a more interactive experience. And then my favorite part, I think, is in the back of the store near the register. We wanted to create this area that you could really personalize what
Hmm.
you have. I mean, Vera Bradley is known for prints, right? They're known for duffel bags and tote bags and prints and what you use to, for sleepovers when you were a teenager and all those things. I mean, that's what we hear from customers a lot. And so now we're shifting, and we've got a lot of prints, but now we also have a lot of solids, and they're beautiful colors. And but with that, we wanted to make sure that people still felt like they could have a nod of the whimsy that Vera Bradley is known for. So what we have, the fixture in the back of the store is new, and it's a personalization table, really. So
Hmm.
lots of charms and scarves and
Oh, wow.
right, things that you can use to personalize your bag, and we've seen some nice success with that so far.
Yeah, I did want to talk about that. That's so cool. Personalization, so key right now. It seems everything is personalized. Um, but I'm actually going to jump ahead because there's so much to talk about. um, so how does Vera Bradley plan to meet the increased expectations of consumers regarding the brand, et cetera, and engagement across all channels?
So the first thing we did for this relaunch that I think is maybe one of the most important parts is that we upgraded all of our fabrics. So that was a consistent drumbeat of feedback that we've heard in the last few years, is that there was a perception that the fabric quality wasn't as good. So that was really a key foundation of this entire rebrand, was making what women are carrying against their bodies. We wanted to make sure that we were giving them the softest and best, just best hand feel that we possibly could. So that's something I think in now and into the future, in terms of customer perception. We want to keep things soft and very tactile, and because that means quality to people in a lot of ways. So that's one way. There certainly we think about our brand evaluation and engagement in a lot of different ways. We have our marketing team is really talented. Just bringing Zoe into the fold here, and just getting a whole new generation of people, not just generation, but whole new group of people exposed to the brand, has been really fun to see. But so we have leaned in the future to some of those partnerships, and thinking about how we use influencers and how we use other people to increase the perception of the brand. And again, we're always listening. We have a very active and thorough CSAT program here that we are evaluating almost on a daily basis to understand what people are saying and the feedback, and how we can improve. So it's really just part of what we do every day.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I loved, Jackie, what you talked about in terms of materials and the importance of, showing sort of an enhanced value, the higher end materials, and that's really important. So I'm glad you talked about that. So in closing, this was a huge undertaking that what you went through, you and your company. What would you say are some key takeaways you can share with our listeners, who may be embarking on a transformation project, perhaps not quite as big as this, but, just sort of, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but what would be some just key takeaways we can end on?
So first, it's critical to do your research and understand every part of your business. We have a kind of complex business model in that we have a brand channel that's stores and .com. We have an outlet channel that's stores and .com. We have an Amazon channel. We have a wholesale channel. So looking at all of that and understanding how this, a brand transformation or refresh is going to impact every part of the business is really important. I think our research and studying what other brands have done well and not well in terms of a transformation is really important. I mean, that really helped us think through things much better. And partially, quite honestly, thanks to Women in Retail, I'm always expanding my fellow CEO network, and I encourage my team to do that as well, so that there's a lot of people I can pick up the phone and talk to and say, gosh, I just saw you did that. How did you do it? I mean, that's been a really important part of this to me, because there's lots of things that as a leader, as a CEO, no matter what level you are, that you sometimes just need different input, like something that's outside of your board or your boss or your peers inside the company. And that has really been very critical for me to be able to bounce things off and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking about. Do you see any holes in the plan? That definitely has been a part of the success here. But I think the most important thing is that in a transformation like this, you can't waver. I mean, you have to be bold. And once you understand what you need to do, you have to just go for it, because there was no doubt that when we looked at where the brand was going, that we needed a major change. And then this wasn't going to be something that a small change was going to fix. And there's lots of risks that come with that. But if you know that that's the right thing to do and you've done your homework, then you have to be bold and committed to it and just go for it. So don't lose sight of the background and heritage of your company, but just figure out what you can do to enhance it, and then just go do it.
I love that. I'm sure there's no doubt that there were times when you were wondering, is this the right thing to do? Could I be doing this better? But it's kind of like you have to just, come up with a plan, believe in the plan, and just move forward. I think that's such great advice for a lot of different things, not just for transformation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, this was so great, and thank you so much for the Women in Retail shout out. I do think it does. I'm sure it gets lonely at the top, and it's probably great to have the ability to bounce ideas off with others. Whether it's Women in Retail or another circle that you might have. So, Jackie, thank you so much for taking the time to go through this. It's been really great. It's a great case study and a successful transformation, and I'm sure your wisdom is going to be helping a lot of folks listening. So we really appreciate your time. Congratulations. Good luck on everything. And hopefully we'll connect again soon.
Thanks, Melissa. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please go to womeninretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review our show. Lastly, if you're a female retail leader interested in joining our community at Women in Retail Leadership Circle, visit womeninretail.com/apply. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.